Hello BookTube, this is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Got Friday reads to do. I've got a small book haul I'm going to do first though. And also I have been tagged in loads of things recently, but I haven't filmed any tags in a while, and partially it's because I really have to be in the mood to do tags, so I just can't think of any answers. And partially it's because my computer's out of order at the moment, and I'd like to make the thumbnails on my computer rather than on my phone, so I can badly Photoshop my stupid face on things. But yeah, so if you've tagged me in things, sorry, I haven't done a tag in ages, and I'm going to try and bulk do a load once I've put my computer back together. Okay, let's do my little haul. Well, actually, it's quite a big haul, but one of them's a box set, so it doesn't really count, and two of them aren't here yet, so I'll have some more next week as well. The first book I've got, I've had a bit of a palaver with this. It's Nancy Mitford's Love in a Cold Climate. Well, the first haul I ever did on this channel, I hauled this book, but I hauled it with Don't Tell Alfred, which is the third book in the sort of loosely knit trilogy of this Nancy Mitford series. And the first one's The Pursuit of Love, which I loved. But then I lost the book. I've been looking for it for like months, because every time I finish a book, I'm like, oh, I want to read Love in a Cold Climate, and I can't find it anywhere. So I was like, okay, I'll give up. I'm just going to order another one on eBay because it's like £2.50 or whatever. And then when I was moving my computer desk the next day, I obviously found the original copy with Don't Tell Alfred in as well. So now I've got 2 copies of this and 2 copies of Don't Tell Alfred. Or is it Love in a Cold Climate? It probably makes more sense that it's the first one. I think I've got 2 copies of The Pursuit of Love and 2 copies of Love in a Cold Climate. But yeah, very happy to have this. And this one matches my other editions anyway, so now I have a matching set. These are all matching sets really, because I've got the Agatha Raisin and the Vicious Vet. So the second book in Agatha Raisin, I nearly said trilogy then, but it's like a million books. But again, it's the same style as the Quiche of Death one that I read last month. I wish I had this last month because it got a cat on it, and that was one of the prompts. And then the third one is The Potted Gardener, which is another brilliant cover. Whoever done the artwork on these is brilliant. Let's give some credit. Alice Tate. Very funny artwork. And these are all kind of similar artwork actually. And this is the last thing I've got, which is a 10-book collection. And it's P.G. Wodehouse. It's called Jeeves and Chums. So I think the ones with the cocktail glasses are non-Jeeves ones. And what's this golf one? Yeah, I think that's not a Jeeves one either. I've read a couple of these, but I think there's like 8 of them I haven't read. And this was on Vinted for £5 for 10 books, and none of them have been read. So they're all basically brand new, and it was £5 and like £5 packaging. So I've effectively paid £1 for 10 P.G. Wodehouse books, which is fun. Yeah, and it's sort of these artwork styles. This is my favourite ever Jeeves and Wooster that I've read so far. Yep. So yeah, I've got all those, and I've got Joy in the Morning in the same style as well. So lots of Jeeves and Wooster. Yeah, and I've got 2 more things on the way, so I'll show those off next week. Right, let's go through what I've been reading then. So I'm going to go backwards from most recent because I just finished a book like 10 minutes ago, and I like to talk about it, my immediate reactions. And that was Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, which is longlisted for the Woman's Prize. I don't think the shortlist is out yet. I haven't read any others on that list yet, so I can't really judge whether it should go through, but I'm going to say it should do because I really enjoyed this. I kind of wasn't expecting to really, because I don't really like straight up modern fiction that's just, I guess it's kind of historical fiction because it's set in, it bounces around 1990, and it goes back and forth 10 years. But yeah, I generally don't read much modern fiction, but I really enjoyed this. So the basic synopsis is, it's about an Irish family in London, and first of all it opens and there's been a death of a little girl, and they think a little English girl, and they think the little Irish girl is responsible in some way. She was the last person seen with the little English girl, and at first you follow this newspaper, this sort of tabloid newspaper chap who's a bit of a rat, like all tabloid newspaper writers, and he's he's like chasing up the story. So the idea is he gets hold of this Irish family and puts them all in a hotel, and wants to sort of, so he's sort of paying them fancy things to get their stories. And basically the bulk of the book is just going through the backstories of all the adult Irish people in this family. So there's the mother of the child who is sort of accused sort of thing, who's a very young, I think that's who the cover picture is meant to be, is a very young girl. She had the child when she was like 16. And then there's her brother and her father, and basically this journalist interviews them and goes into their backstory, sort of trying to get dirt on why this little girl may have committed a terrible crime. But yeah, Megan Noah's really good at sort of little, or it's almost short stories, and they're quite tragic because they're like a working class family, and the father and the son both have issues with alcohol, and the main girl obviously has issues as well. But yeah, I thought the writing at times was very good, very sort of beautiful writing, almost short story style, like I said. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think I would love a bigger story, because I think, also I should say, if you're going into this thinking it's like a murder mystery, it is not that. It's more like delving into the sort of quite dark past of this family. Not dark as in they're not criminals, but emotionally quite dark in some parts. But yeah, I think the whole death of a child thing, and almost like an investigation by this journalist thing, it's almost not needed. I think where her talent lies is in telling sort of stories that feel quite real about these Irish people living in London, and they've sort of fled Ireland because she's had this child so young. So yeah, I think also it could have maybe ended sooner, because although it's only like 220 pages, I don't think you really need the ending. I think the stories are what matter, and I would actually, I think she should do like a giant Irish Middlemarch where it's just loads of little stories of people in the town. Yeah, so really enjoyed this. So yeah, I think I gave it 4 stars. Well, I haven't rated it yet. I'll give it 4 stars. So yeah, hopefully there's more like that on the Woman's Pies. Hopefully it does go through. I also have her first book, which I think is about sort of an obsessive relationship, so I'll give that a go at some point. The book I read before that was my audiobook, which was a reread for me, and I actually read it when I was on this channel already, and I've had this channel less than a year, so this is a very quick reread, and that is True Grit by Charles Portis, read by the author Donna Tartt. And I just was like looking for an audiobook and listening to samples, and I just loved Donna Tartt's voice, so I couldn't resist it. And it's kind of reiterated my love of True Grit. I just think it's such a perfect little western. There's no fat on it at all. It's so funny, smart. The dialogue is unbelievably good, and it's just such a perfect little story as well. Donna Tartt's essay at the end as well is really good, and she talks about how her great grandmother was the one who discovered it in her family and made her entire family read it, and they've all read it loads of times and they love it. And I think I will reread it a lot of times as well. It's so good. I think it's up there. I didn't even put it number 1 last year when I was rating my books, but it's up there with my favourite books now, I think. Yeah, so I need to find a new audiobook. I think I've got Young Mungo out, so maybe, and that's read by a Scottish person, which I quite like if it's a Scottish story, so I might go with that one. And then before I finished True Grit, I finished a very weird book. I was kind of in the mood for a horror, and I was watching the Booktubers' channel and Criminology, and I was looking at like their top 10s, trying to find a horror that I might like, and they're both kind of thick-skinned horror experts, and I'm a bit of a delicate flower child, so I was a bit worried. But I was watching the Bookkeepers as well, and then I was looking through on Amazon on my phone for how much everything was on Kindle, trying to find a deal, because I like to pay 99p if I can, or seeing if they were in the library. And then she was talking about The Cormorant by Stephen Gregory, and I accidentally clicked one-click buy, so I bought it, and it was like £4 for a Kindle book, which is too much for a Kindle book that's from 1986, especially when I can get a paper copy for like £2.50 off eBay. But never mind, I could have asked for my money back, but I thought, whatever, fate has told me I need to read this book about a crazy bird. A cormorant, if you don't know, I don't know if they're international or not, or just UK based, but they were a quite large, fearsome seabird, or I don't know if they live on the sea or if they jump in and out. This one doesn't live in the sea anyway, it lives in someone's garden. It's a weird premise. It's about a teacher and his young wife and child, and his uncle, who he's only really met at funerals and doesn't really know, has died, and he was a bit of a loner and didn't really have any friends or anything, so he's left his cottage in Wales near Mount Snowdon, to the main character, the teacher, but with one caveat, is that he has to look after his cormorant, which he'd rescued from being covered in oil. Yeah, and the terms of his will are, you know, you can live in this house and your child can have the house when you die, as long as you look after this cormorant until the cormorant dies. The thing that the bookkeeper said about it, which kind of attracted to me before I even accidentally bought it, was that it is quite literary for a horror book, and it was very literary, and if anything, it's over descriptive, and I think that is on purpose. So the sort of over descriptiveness of the cormorant terrorizing the house and pooing everywhere, and the sea and the setting of sort of the outside of Mount Snowdon and stuff, but slightly over descriptive maybe, but that works. And it's dark, and as it goes on, the man starts to, like, at first they're terrified of this cormorant, and they build a sort of cage for it outside, but the man starts to have a weird connection with it, and so does the child. The child has a weird connection to it, and then there's some other sort of horror-y trope figures things as well, and well, it's a horror, so bad things happen. But there was some absolutely horrendous bits in it, like completely unnecessary. There was one completely unnecessary, I thought, weird sexual thing, which I think a lot of horror books love to throw in a weird sexual thing just to freak you out even more. But it was deeply disturbing to me. But overall, I quite enjoyed the book, and I had birds when I was growing up, but now I'm a bit scared of them. But yeah, so that was my little dip into horror. I've also picked up one that Criminale recommended. I think it's about being under the sea. I'll put a picture of it here because I can't remember what it's called, but it's about deep sea exploration thing. I can't imagine it goes well. And I also got The Fog by someone. This is going well in my memory. But yeah, I'll put The Fog up as well, which is a bit of a classic, I think. So maybe I'll dip into another horror. I actually don't know what I'm reading now because I've finished Ordinary Human Failings and True Grit. So maybe I'm tempted to go for Trollope because Daniel from Guilty Feet made a video about Trollope. Woz has just read The Last Chronicle of Barset. So has Kelly, and I haven't read it yet. So I'm falling behind. I'm falling behind my Trollope. So maybe I'll start that. Let me know, BookTube, have you read anything from The Woman's Spies? Have you read Ordinary Human Failings? What did you think? Have you read True Grit? I'm sure a lot of you have. Have you read The Cormorant? I'd be surprised if many of you have read The Cormorant, but I don't think I'd recommend it because it was too rich for my blood. But yeah, let me know. Have a good one, BookTube.